So as I was saying, Travis, a wizard arrives exactly when he means to, not a moment too late, not a moment too early. Hey,
That's true.
Cyrus, good to see you.
Hey, Jack, just wanted to tell you, thanks for
Yep.
having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, fantastic. Good. Hey, welcome everybody. This is this week's episode of Jawin With Jack. I'm the Jack you're looking for. And joining me this week is Travis Fauber, recently of Full Metal Tilt, the jousting game. Is it a full role-playing game? Or is it a more of a board game, or is it something that can be added on to role-playing games?
Well, it's Full Metal Tilt's definitely a plug and play supplement, or as some people have referred to it as like a mini game.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take any system that you want to play with, as long as it's kind of OSR adjacent. And the way that I mean by that is that your basic stats, as long as you got something that relates to strength or something that relates to constitution and charisma, you can play. You can just plug and play this easily. I mean, you could use like Earth Dawn, and you got your strength, you got your toughness, and you got charisma on that. Or you can use
Okay.
like DCC and do the same thing with their stats, or Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So
So
it's
they
just,
would, yeah, those were the ones that all sprang to mind for me as the classic OSR clones. But it's
yep.
interesting to think that it's flexible enough to be used with Earth
You,
Dawn, because that's a very different system to mine.
yeah, I mean, you could easily do that, just because of the fact it's a mini game, and then the only time that you'd ever have to go to your system of choice is when it relates to a tie, or the other knight doesn't yield, or say the other jouster. It doesn't necessarily have to be a knight, but you know what I mean.
Sure. So
Yeah.
when so Full Metal Tilt might reference it. Okay, this comes down to a charisma check. Can you intimidate him into giving up? And you default to however that system handles that.
Right. So I mean, it's mostly for like the melee. So like I'm saying, like you can just plug and play. So if you're doing the system, which is built off of chainmail, which I've expanded on it, you would actually play through it, which I can show you an example. I'd have to just give me a moment to like pull it up.
Sure.
But you would pretty much use the chart, play the system how it is, and then say whoever the lord or the knight marshal that is refereeing the tournament would like give a parameters of like first strike, to end this if there is a tie, or let's say like or until a knight yields. So you could go through and you could be unhorsed, and you can still continue on if you wanted to, but usually once you're unhorsed, you would lose the match, and so forth and so on. But at that point in time, once it would go into melee combat, then you'd use the system of your choice. So it just, like I said, plug and play. You got your little mini system, play it, pull back out, play your regular game, just like you've not missed a beat.
Nice. Now, since it's a mini game, it kind of implies that you could take it and run it on its own.
Yes.
Like just doing the jousting part.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So actually, I just ran one just recently for VentureCon 4.5 online. Just was testing out one of the new tables that the backers will receive out of. I'm adding 2 new tables out of the 4 that I've already created, and pretty much, you would just set up a tournament, decide, which, like I was saying, like how a tie will be taken care of. On top of that,
right,
I will have rules in the book that will let you randomly generate trophies and so forth and so on, rewards, for the knights. I mean, of course, another one that's easy would be like to be knighted. If you're just a warrior who, yes, I can afford a horse and I can afford armor, so I want to go joust.
I got the gear. I just don't have the name. I can dig that. I can really dig that.
Right. And also, on top of that, I actually have that will be in the book, ladies' favors. So at the beginning of a tournament, you'll have the helm show, where it will all be where you can find out how the crowd feels about you. Also allows like any lady to be like, well, no, I'm going to Me Too this guy because he's been doing a bunch of bad stuff to a bunch of women that we've been hearing about. So you're out. That's that type of stuff. It can't happen. I mean, it kind of like builds some role play on top of just having the mini system.
Sure. And that is customarily the time where the ladies give their favors as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yep.
it works.
And I've got charts for that too. And actually I've told people, many a times now that if you happen to roll the key, I'm going to have a little disclaimer down there that's just going to say that if I have to explain what the key is used for, just re-roll the chart again, please.
Yes. Re-roll.
Right.
Well, and that certainly makes it friendly for conventions and local gaming.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is definitely, yeah. We're not going to cross it. So what inspired Just Such a Creature, this bolt-on jousting game? Where did you get the inspiration for such an idea? How did you see that need?
Well, it's an interesting story. I actually just previous that year, this is back in 2024, around 2023, 2024. I had just my mom had passed away, and I was considering like going and like I was going to be like doing some other things. I was going to go back and rehash some of my other adventures and stuff that I had wrote or run, and I was thinking about having those published. And what ended up happening is that right after my birthday, see, my mom's birthday is November 15th, and my birthday is December 15th. And that's kind of like when I ran the Kickstarter between those two dates. And I just kind of like woke up like soon thereafter my birthday, and just kind of like had this feeling like, why haven't I like seen like the system that people run at like Gary Con for like jousting? And I knew nothing about the jousting matrix being the back of Chainmail. I knew of Chainmail, actually own a copy of Chainmail, just never read it. It was like one of those things I was like, hey, I got a nice copy I got for like back in 2010, just to put in a shadow box and say, here's the roots and everything, to keep
I confess to being in the similar boat of I got to buy the reprint because I never could get one, right? And then I tried to read it and I went, yeah, that's going on the shelf for a little while. I got Hell March. I'm gonna read that. I've got Old Lords of Wonder and Ruin. I'm reading those.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier. Okay, so
it kind of led me down this path because I kept looking, and it was like real hard to like, nobody really just said, oh, this is where the jousting matrix is. Like I did searches and finally I found it, and I was like, oh, this is all making sense. And I was like, I do have a copy of this, and I went back and I looked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been here the whole time. And and like I said, like I just had this muse to like do it. And so I was like, okay, I would like to expand on this. I've always enjoyed, like, especially like back in the day, I'd play like Pendragon, and I love that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And and then it just, people kept getting so interested in it, and it was like a lot of fun. Like when I expanded and worked out some things that I didn't particularly like about how the jousting matrix worked, and I wanted to make sure that it could be plugged in to like any system. I was already thinking about this, and so and in the long run, I just kind of like thought that was just kind of like my mom saying, "Hey, you should do this," and then that came out to my Kickstarter and everything, and I was like, "All right." So, and then I tied in my adventures that I wrote, since then, that had won some awards in the Dragon Slayer dungeon design contest.
Nice. All right. And that's Greg Gillespie's book, correct?
Yeah, Dragon Slayer.
Correct. Yeah. Got it. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was an unaffiliated contest or something.
No, it's ran by him. He's the judge for it. He's very opinionated. So you'll get your opinion right, right up the start, about what you should do or what he didn't like or whatnot. But it was a really good experience, like doing that. And I won back to back the 2 times that it's actually been ran. So 2024 and 2025.
Where can people interested find those adventures?
Those adventures, well, they haven't been officially published. Both those 2, and Full Metal Tilt. I do have previews up right now on Drive-Thru. That was for the Kickstarter. Like the Full Metal Tilt one has just the basic rules, doesn't have your ladies' favors and heralds and the other stuff I'm working on, or all these other tables. It has one table, which if you get that table and you look at it, you're like, this is an adapted version of the original Jousting Matrix, which I lovingly refer to as Table O for old school. So, so that's in there.
I get it.
And then the Bearer of the Unbroken King. That's the first one that I had, won the dungeon design contest for Dragon Slayer, and it was it's basically it's got 3-page contest, and I just expanded it just a little bit when I put out the preview, kind of put a little like pre-gens and just kind of like a little link and everything at the end, just so you go back to the Kickstarter if you're interested and you like this. But it is just the original, like the 3 pages, so it's like a 12 room dungeon for that one, with some little bit of details with the background and everything of where you can plug this into like Greg Gillespie's Northern Reaches campaign. And then the last one, which was the 2025 winner, is the Whispers of the Second Deep, and that one's set in the Dwera Deep setting. Well, both of them kind of is. That one's outside in like a elven.
Okay.
The Barrow one, the Unbroken King, is set in an elven forest that's near the Eternal Mountains where the dwarves are. And then in the Eternal Mountains, one of the first places that you can go to is called the King's Gate. And the King's Gate, it kind of alluded that there was actually 2 more levels below it. And so that one, I believe there's 30 rooms that's in that one that I did in 3 pages. And it also just has, just that, nothing else expanded off of it, because both of those will be expanded for the backers from my previous the Kickstarter that had just fulfilled. Nice. And but if you take his map for the King's Gate and you take my map for the Whispers of the Second Deep, they line right up. There is goblins in Greg's area, but no, not in mine. You will there's some undead, and there is some myconoids for you to have fun with.
Oh, I like myconids.
Yep.
Myconids, part of me, whichever one it is.
Well, I had to figure out, like, how do I do this? I wanted to do that, and I had to figure out, okay, this place, like, nothing has been in here. It's not like the goblins and the orcs that, he's talking about, or the Dwarger, are coming up out of there. So I was like, I had to figure out how does it, exist and what's going on. So I was like, these things can work. Oh, and constructs, of course. So
I love constructs and undead. They're 2 of my favorites. You just can't get away from them. Yeah, but yeah, I always love the myconids. I use them very sparingly in D&D because they feel like one of those creatures that can become very mundane very easily. So
right.
But I've always liked that particular flavor of them, so it makes me tickled to hear that they're in your adventure.
Well, you enjoyed the Truffle Lord then.
A Truffle Lord?
That's it. He's
yeah,
Lord.
I got it. Yes. There will be goblins there when I'm done with it.
Okay. Oh well, I mean, if like I said, I'm not going to give away like why certain things are not there, but once that is figured out, yeah, the rest of the dungeons of the third, because there's even a third deep and everything else around, yeah, they would be able to freely roam. So
are these snippets of your homebrew campaign? That is that how you've crafted these modules? That's fantastic.
Yeah. So in the Full Metal Tilt we ran, actually the one that we just did in a playtest, that was the 3rd annual. Hey, here's my dad.
Hey,
he's watching. That's cool.
Nice to have you here, sir.
he's probably out in New Jersey, what we were just talking about. So
New Jersey. Look, hey, avoid that lady. I'm from New Jersey. I grew up there. I can tell you the New Jersey women are no good, man. I'm sorry. Don't let me influence you. No, seriously, get away from her. I know she's probably listening. Send a coded message, text message if you need help. We can send a rescue party.
But yeah, it is based off of my home game. So everything I design, I make sure that it's something I can fit in there, something that they can play test, and that way, we can build off of. Like the Second Deep, they're still exploring it. The Bear of the Unbroken King, which is also part of a series that I will do eventually, that's known as the Mountains of the Fairy Kings, and they're still getting into that too as well. Actually, the town that the backers will get that will be part of the Bear of the Unbroken King is actually a town that they're actually establishing right now. So
nice, very cool, very cool.
Now,
one of my traditional questions that I like to start with, and I just blew right past it. I'm very unconventional today.
That's all right. It's all right.
How did you get started in the RPG hobby? Like, when did that happen? What was the game? What was the edition?
It was Mulvey's Basic Expert, 3rd grade. A buddy of mine, Jeff Bogus, brought it to elementary school, and the other guys they kind of wanted to LARP it out in the schoolyard and everything, and I was like, nah, I kind of want to know how this works and everything. But even prior to that, I did play some of the D&D and television games.
Interesting.
I was very interested. Yeah, there was like Treasure of Tarman was my favorite, which is where you can go down to the levels and it's kind of 3D. And then there was I know it's with the dragons, but it's like Cloudy Mountain or something that's called, and you had to go and it's kind of like 2D as you were like playing, across it. I see my dad mentioning that he's a big fan of his Jersey Girl.
Yeah, me.
But that aside, so
yeah. And exotic New Jersey. No. Where I come from is Salem County, which I refer to colloquially as deepest, darkest South Jersey. Maybe that's how I got my start. Is that, and actually, Dad, took my friend's copy and made copies for me so that I could, he could have his copy back and I could be like, all right, now I'm going to try to figure this out. So, but that was my original, was the Basic Expert Mulvey. Nice. How did it progress from there? Where did you move on to like advanced at some point, or?
Yeah, I picked up the books, but at that young age, I didn't really, didn't have anybody really to play with. I had my brother and my sister, but they weren't interested in it. So it was mostly, it was kind of like solo play, like reading about it, a lot of Lone Wolf books, and just going.
I get it. Yeah.
But it wasn't similar. Yeah, it wasn't until like junior high that I actually got to really play with like a group. So, nice. And then even then, it was a guy's homebrew game. wasn't even any system that I was used to. So,
oh man!
Oh, it was great. It was great though.
Okay, at least it was good, because most stories I've heard have been horror stories when it comes to homebrew systems.
Oh no, actually, what's crazy is he was doing stuff that that a lot of people say, oh, this is the new thing, like slots for inventory and stuff, and I'm just like, no, we were doing that way back when.
No kidding, really?
Yep, and it was based off of, and it was only 3d6, and you had 3 stats, and that was it. Wow. And what you rolled, that's what you got.
Wow, man. And that's the way it was. And we just rolled 3d6 down the line, and then you picked your class based off of them scores, and we liked it.
Yeah. There was no class. There was just it was like a skill system the way that he had it set up. So
probably inherently superior.
Yeah, it was very sandals and sword. It reminded me more now that I've read a lot of, and he was big into Conan and everything, and I just kind of felt like that's what it was. It's like very human centric, very historical in many of the places you went to, so it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And do you dabble in other genres? Is your fantasy and D&D your main jam?
Well, it's funny because I brought up Earth Dawn, but soon thereafter, that's all I ran for in high school for 4 years.
No kidding.
I ran a long Earth Dawn campaign, and I still own like a lot of the stuff, and have been like a backer for a lot of their their Kickstarters that have come out.
Mhm.
But that was like my favorite system at the time until Dragon Slayer came out, and that's because it hit that going back to home where it was like third grade, opening up that book, and I was like, ever since I found the Dwaro Deep, or not Dwaro Deep, Barrow Maze, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this is what I've been looking for. To go back into like the D&D, set.
So it really recaptured that spirit that you felt originally.
Yep.
I love that. What was it about Earth Dawn that did that specifically for you? Because I've never owned a copy myself. I had like perused a friend's copy, and I think might have even played a one shot years and years ago. What is it that draws you to that game?
Well, there's certain things about Earth Dawn. I love the setting, and this is before I even knew the setting was even part of like our world, like back in the day, playing off of the whole Shadowrun part. I kind of had an inkling that they may do that, but I kind of hope that they did.
My goodness, I completely forgot that's where it came from. I completely forgot about the Shadowrun link. Okay, go on.
Yeah, that's
it was originally a FASA property.
Yeah, it was well, it still is FASA. So they still exist, except they're smaller now.
Yeah.
But
I always think they went away because other people do BattleTech now.
Well, parts of it was like, it was, from my understanding, it was there, but then like it was now, rejuvenated in a sense. But yeah, a lot of it got, carved off at those days and everything. But no, what did it for me is that I liked how the system was run. I really liked the whole idea of like karma. I liked the idea of having a defensive where it would be like a physical defense, and then your armor would take away from him. Like this, I was like, this makes sense to me. I was like, I liked that there wasn't like a lot of healers. That was either you recover on your own or that's it. It's like, and then the whole like kind of Cthulhu-esque with the horrors was very cool too as well. I really enjoyed kind of like, and it's kind of like post-apocalypse in a sense with magic, and like I said, that just really like drew me in. So
I vaguely recall as well that they leaned heavily into certain elements, almost steampunk elements before steampunk was even really a thing. So like airships and those kind of sky pirates and stuff.
Yeah, and I really like the airship part, but it wasn't like steampunk for the airships. That was more like Final. Well, I guess Final Fantasy kind of had like the little propeller on the end, but that's what I mean.
That's what I mean. It was elemental. It was even steampunk.
Yeah, it was like elemental magic that would make, and you even had ships that were made of stone that would, float. That was like stone infused with like air kernels and whatnot, but and floating castles, that they'd have. But the steampunk part that you were talking about, now the Scrang did have the river boats that were run off of engines that would, it was kind of like, it reminded me of like the Mississippi with the stern wheeler and everything.
Yeah,
that's what they have. The paddle boat. Yep, the paddle boats is what they'd have.
Yep. Those old classic casino boats. And
Yep. But yeah, that's what drew me into that, and I played that for years with a bunch of friends. Actually, like in the green room we were talking about when I was talking about my friend Aaron and us testing out that new table that he that's when I got to meet him and a few other friends, and since then we've been playing all kinds of different games.
That's awesome. Have you delved into any other genres? Did that lead you into like BattleTech and? Well,
I've had Star Frontier. I've ran Star Frontiers for folks. Me and my brother did play some BattleTech back in the day, because that's about the time like he started playing games. We played BattleTech. Also played Feng Shui. We loved Feng Shui, especially with the Big Trouble in Little China kind of theme.
Yes.
Played a lot
Yeah.
of 40K, Warhammer Fantasy, both not necessarily RPG, but like well, also Warhammer Quest and those and Heroes Quest, but like the actual
Yeah, those are
the board
closer to
games.
dungeon crawling board games, but they have enough. You can sustain a campaign with them.
Yeah. But also like I was saying, like with like Necromunda, Mordheim,
Oh
we
yeah.
played all kinds of games like that. Pathfinder when third edition went down the tube, and we got fourth, which we did play fourth a little bit, and then we're like, nope, you can only go so far. So and then we went to Pathfinder, and we stick with Pathfinder for quite some time until we start playing some 5e, and then now we're here,
And here we are.
Yeah.
Well, that leads to the inevitable question: do you have a take on the newest edition of D&D?
No, I haven't read it, and I haven't given it a thought. So I mean, it's one of those things where I see the stuff and I do like I'm like, oh, okay, I'll hear what Double D's take on it. I'll hear what RBG's pundits take on it. I'll hear what the next person's take on it. But it's like with everything else that's out there, it's not even a thought in my head about even like going back and I always tell people, I was like, I don't want to give them my money. So
right.
But when somebody buys me something that's D&D related, I'm like, they've already the whoever they bought it from, previously, they've already paid for it. So it's like, I accept it because people know that I do like that. So I don't fret it.
And so from the 5th edition days, that led into, did you go more old school? Where on that path did you come upon Dragon Slayer?
Well, it's when I got a copy of Barrowmaze. So about that time we were still converting everything over, and this is like around COVID.
Okay.
To 5th edition. So like at that time we were running, a friend of mine, usually we would change like the dungeon master, and he was running the Crimson Throne. I think it's a venture path.
Not familiar.
For Pathfinder. I think it is the Crimson Throne. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's a Pathfinder path or whatever they call it. It's a series, it's an arc. Mm-hmm. So we were playing that, but it was converted to 5th edition. So towards the end, it was kind of like dying out. I mean, he was with everything else going on in his life, and then with COVID and stuff, it was just getting hard for all of us to like get together online at times. So I came across Barrowmaze, and I talked to my dad who had just started playing, because during that time my brother were Wizards of the Coast was giving away like free modules, and my brother has like the deluxe what is it? It's a VTT. I'm trying to think of fantasy. Is it Fantasy Grounds? Yeah, Fantasy Grounds.
Okay.
And he had the deluxe set, and he really hadn't played. Like, we played a couple times through it, and he's like, "Hey, I got the Phandalin module set. The one that comes out of. He got both of them. With the Mines of Phandalin. I think I'm trying to remember whatever it's called, but it comes in the basic set, and then he had like the one that came in like the expanded set that they did." Okay. And those were like free, and one of them like he paid just so we could play it all the way through. So we decided we would play, and we played like dwarves. We all were the Thunder Shields. So Dad played a character, I played a character, he played a character, and he ran it, and we just played. But at that time, like I said, the other campaign was like kind of like falling off. So I just kind of like, hey, it's Friday night, I want to play. I knew that a couple other people wanted to play, so I said, hey, I'd like to run this. I just ported Dad's character in, and we just started playing like at 5th edition. But then slowly but surely been like converting everything over, kind of like you know how eBay used to be yellow and now slowly but surely we're changing the color to white. So, but that's how everything has been going since then.
That's really neat. So now you have, going back to the Full Metal Tilt, we've wrapped up the Kickstarter. It closed, and you funded something like 600%, if I remember correctly.
No, it's like let me look. I think it's like 270 something. I think.
Okay.
I was just under 3. No, I wasn't at 6. Oh, I'd love to have been at 6. It's like things like tapered off, and like some of my friends that have done Kickstarters were like, I don't know what's going on right now. Like at the end of like even their Kickstarters, they're like, I just kind of felt, well, it's around the holidays. People are probably not, you know, like
it ebbs and flows. There does seem to be, well, externalities are always a factor.
Right. And so, you know, I was just happy. I was like, okay, that's like, that's cool. It's like I made, you know, enough to pay back the computer that I bought to like start this whole journey. So, and then then some, so that I could, you know, add on to anything else that I needed to, but also to pay for a few things. Yeah, 272%. But yeah, but I funded in like 3.5 hours. So
that's great, man.
Or 3.5 hours. It took.
Great.
Yep.
So congratulations on that, because that's a resounding success any way you slice it for a first Kickstarter, especially because you're not, and you know, no shade, but you're not exactly a Goliath of social media either. So I think that's a pretty good showing. Yeah, flow of the market, it's very much the way. And you know, that's one of those things. Like myself, I had to pass on it because I'm in Kickstarter recovery. I went a little overboard the last couple of years. I've got a stack to be read of games and stuff, and I've got more stuff coming in all the time. I'm like, I got a problem, man. I need help, man.
Well, it will be. It's like some people told me, said, "Oh, well, I can't like late pledge," and I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, I wasn't going to like deal with that. I was like, I'm just going to like, here's the cutoff. It's going to be on drive-through, so don't.
I'm sure I'll pick it up because I definitely need the jousting added on. Because when you went Pathfinder with the 4th edition, I went Castles and Crusades. My local.
I enjoy that system. Yeah,
it's a great game, great system. I really like, and that's my thing. I've never been drawn to Pathfinder because most descriptions are, oh, it's like 3.5, but even better. There's more to it, and I'm like, that sounds like the opposite of what I want. By the time I was done with 3.5, I was done with 3.5. You know, I don't want more of that. I want less of it. I want to get. Well, and like you, that's why I went to Castles and Crusades, because it was a new game, but it was in the spirit and style of the BECME and BX editions that I love from the 80s.
Yep. Yeah, and I do own PDFs of their products, and I think it's a wonderful product too. I like Troll Lord games. I have some friends that do some work for them. Like Frank Avila, who actually did some work for me too as well for the heraldry that's in my book.
Awesome.
He does a lot of work for them on social media and does also digital work. So
that's great. That's great. Yeah, you know, I'm in the player's handbook.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. For title page, I'm in the special acknowledgments. I got to do some play testing for it back when they did that. That updated it. That it was the most. They've never called it a new edition, but it was the most serious revision or refinement they had to the rules at that time. So, but I'm blessed to be still in the book to this day.
Nice
claim to fame. But yeah, that's how much historical research did you have to do on the jousting to flesh out Full Metal Tilt?
I'm still doing more research, but yes, I've done a lot. I've done a lot. You know, just like we were just mentioning, like the Helm show and so forth and so on. You know, because that's one of the sections that I'm delving into immediately about how you would set up a tournament, how you could import that into your campaign, how it doesn't necessarily have to be a tournament, how it could be just like it could just be like you're at the crossroads and like, you know, knights just wanted to joust. It could be to the point of what was the other thing I was thinking about? Trial by combat, because you just happen to be in that situation, you know, any of that stuff. So yeah, these are the things that I have looked up just to, you know, make sure that, yeah, because I kind of feel too that when you do have something that is culturally or even historically imprinted into your game, there's a tie with when you read it and you're like, yeah, you know, that this makes sense. Even though I'm putting it into a fantasy setting, I still like, you know, having those actual grounded, you know, human connections seems to work very well. I feel like in any type of product that you're putting out there, or a game system, you know, especially when it comes to story or putting things in there. Yes, I have been to a medieval times tournament way back in the day, but I usually, when I go to see it, is that we have a local Renaissance fair in West Virginia, as well as a big one in Ohio that I frequent. You know, almost here and there every year.
Or an argument over a weapon? I feel like I'm missing an inside joke here.
Yeah. So Howard is the fellow who plays at my table. He helped design what's called the Knight Marshal, which you know, I could show off here like how the system works, and it's the easiest way to digitally show it. And I could pop that up here in just a moment. But let me just go back to like how you play, and then I'll bleed right into like what Howard had brought up and what he created. So initially, when we first started doing this, I wanted to make sure that there was many different ways that somebody could actually play the game, you know, depending on their means or their income. So like you can use paper or pencil, and you write down, you know, whether I'm going for the helm and I'm leaning left or right, which could just be a number, which is 1 or 2, which you'll see once I describe how the chart works. And then on top of that, I also have cards, which on the back of one has a lance, and that's all your aiming points. And then on the back of the defensive maneuvers is a shield, which you could put like your heraldry or whatever on it. And then like say if you're at a convention table or you're just playing with your friends, you could actually, which it has no bearing of how you put your painted knights or anything out there, but it's just fun, you know, especially because I'm a painter. I like to paint my miniatures. So you can set them up, and then you have your cards, and you just lay them down once you've chosen your 2 cards. And then at the time that, you know, impact happens for both of you, because there's no initiative, it all happens at once. You flip the cards and you see, and you use the chart to determine it. Well, Howard decided, I've got this project that I want to do at Marshall University. And he's like, I'm probably going to have to do it with like 70 some kids here. So he's like, I'm going to design a JavaScript program so that you could just use in a window and just do it. And so that's the Knight Marshal got created, and that was the first stretch goal that everybody could get, and like everybody got that. So that is now available once you know, once I start rolling everything out. But nice. I'm actually getting the last table done to be put in there, but he just recently put the new table in there. But him talking about an argument over the weapon, my dad and Matt D'Amico is another designer who plays at my table. He's known for his Western system that he or the game that he had, the adventure that he had did. I'm trying to think of what it's actually called right now. I'll look it up here in a second. But anyway, he's out in Arizona, good guy, and he plays at my table, and he's playing tonight. My dad was playing tonight. They went down in this barrow in a hex. They were doing a hex crawl. And they came out with a couple of different magical items. And 2 of them that they were fighting over they were both hammers. One was a +1 and one was a +2. So they're arguing over it, who should get it. And my dad said, let's joust for it. I had no plans for there being a joust or anything. They're outside. This is like the end of the night. They have made it back to the city because we play kind of like a West March style, so they have to come back, at the end of the night. So other people, if they're not there, that we're not worried about. Well, everybody's out here in the wilderness or whatnot. We're in a dungeon somewhere. So I was like, well, let me go get the stuff. So they jousted for it. My dad just beat him. And so then I won't let Matt live it down.
Bitter.
Yeah.
Bitter.
Yeah. So he got his +1. It was all up just over a +1, the difference, a +1 and a +2. But
hey, that might save his life one of these days.
Yeah.
That extra +1. If I'd have had that extra +1,
I could have hit that thing. I could have hit that thing for us. Right. Here, I'll pull up the Night Marshal so you guys can see this. But
as a DM, you got to throw some monsters at them that you need a +2 weapon to hit.
They're out there. They just have never went. They're just so scared they won't go down to where it's at.
That's where I think fudging is acceptable.
To drop them immediately in there, the earth falls down and you've got to make your way back.
Or whatever they go after. Oh, we're just going to go after a goblin lair. Well, these goblins can only be hit by +2 weapons.
I get what you're saying, yeah. But no, Matt D'Amico, just to give him a shout out, is Massacre Grounds, which is the Weird Wild West adventure that he has, and then Port Mirror. And Port Mirror is actually one where he did both the DCC funnel and Shadow Dark Gauntlet together, both in that adventure.
Nice.
So, yeah.
All right.
So the Night Marshal, we'll pull this up. This is Howard's contribution that he did, and there we go. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, we're going to do the window and share. So you guys can see how the system works. All right, so the Night Marshal, first it asks you whether you want to make it light or dark. I like dark.
I like dark.
Yep. And then we have the entry table. So he actually put my entry tables in here so you can actually have it auto do it or ask. See, I play where it's the honor system. So when we roll our dice for real. We don't use a roller or anything unless somebody just doesn't have their dice available. It's like, I use the roller. So you set it at ask. So that way you can roll and just input it. And then close it out. And then, of course, you roll randomly to determine your table. We'll say we'll use table O like we were just talking about.
Table O.
Yep. So that's the original table where I've just enhanced it a little bit. And so over here, you have player A and you have player B. Now, player A, you can choose your aiming point, whether it's the helm, whether it's a Dexter Chief. These are all indications on a shield. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of show you that, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna pull up my document too.
Right.
And then I'll share my full screen. That way I can flip back and forth between the two.
I'm going to minimize the chat for a moment. That way, there we go. Now I got a little bit more screen real estate.
All right. So I want to adjust this. Make sure it's single page. Okay. And now I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare so I can share my whole screen.
Okay.
All right.
Here it comes. And there we go. Okay.
All right. So table O, like I was saying, like you would have, whether it be on a shield here, Dexter Chief, Chief Pale, Sinister Chief. These are your aiming points that you would pick. So going back to the Night Marshal, you got your abbreviations here. You would choose whatever one that you wanted to do. Well, first you would think about it before telling whoever's running this.
Right.
And then you would choose your defensive maneuver, whether it's lower your helm, lean left, lean right, steady in the seat, shield high, shield low. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat though. So when you choose your aiming point, over here at this little chart here has aiming point and defensive maneuvers. These are your safe maneuvers that you can pull off on a horse when trying to, say, in this case, aim for Chief Pale.
Okay.
Now, you can choose to, we'll say like up here, let's say if you're aiming at the helm, this is probably a better example. You
Okay.
can choose either 4 through 6. So that's either steady in the seat, 5, or shield low for 6.
Shield low, shield high. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So you have this little window right here. You're safe. Nothing will go wrong other than whatever shows up. Now, you can choose a risky maneuver, which means that you might be a little off tilt, trying to do this, meaning you could do lower helm, lean right, or lean right, lean left, so forth and so on. Now, if the example comes up that I'm going to show here, that it is a U, which is the unhorsing check, it becomes an auto unhorsing instead of you actually getting a roll. Because usually when an unhorsing check shows up, what will happen is you have opposed rolls. You would roll a D20, add your strength to it. I'm actually going to expand on that to where people can use their levels, as an optional rule that they could put in if they wanted to do that.
Okay.
But still, even if you had levels and whatnot to use that, there's still a chance that you could lose, because all it takes is breaking a lance to score 1 point. The person could rack up breaking those lances on you. They can score 2 points by breaking a lance on a helm, which is like an H. And then you could also be unhorsed because, hey, the lucky guy just happened to roll higher than I did, and poof, I'm off the horse.
Oh, man.
Okay. So just kind of give you an example. Say if somebody decided they said, I'm going to choose helm 4, and their opponent decided, hey, I'm going to do DC 2. As you can see, it comes down here. It says there's a risky maneuver.
Oh,
this
nice.
Opponent missed, so the risky maneuver paid off, and he also broke a lance and scores a point.
Oh,
so it's a nice little system that Howard put together.
Nifty. Okay.
Now, you want to play, Jack?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. See, I will go first, so that would be fair. So I don't hear it at the end. You know what I mean? So what will happen is that I will say that I'm ready, and you tell me when you're ready, and then I'll start with mine. Okay. I'm
going to aim for DF and my defensive maneuver.
No, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'm gonna do a whole new table now. Okay. What I was gonna say is, once you've chosen, just say ready. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. And then I'm going to go first once I tell you that I'm ready. Okay. So let's just do table A. Let's just wipe the board.
All right. All right.
Don't tell me until I ask for it. Okay.
Ready.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm ready. I'm going to do CP3. And what was your choice?
Helm 3.
All right. So you fumbled. You fumbled your lance, but I only got a glancing blow. So we would do a second pass.
Oh, right. Okay.
Pass 2. Now,
I meant to do that.
Just let you know that if you do break a lance, whatever is said over here about it being safe, that goes out the window. I didn't explain that part. You can only choose 4 or 6 to be safe. So like right here, CP says any. Well, no, it becomes 4 or 6. Then everything becomes risky to you other than those 2 options.
Okay.
All right. I'm ready.
I am also ready.
Okay. I'm choosing FP2. Whoa. And what was your choice?
CP4.
CP4. All right. So you have a possible unhorsing check against me. And I have broken a lance for 1 point, but I also have a possible chance to unhorse you as well.
Oh,
I don't necessarily have a die, but I'll use a roller here.
I got dice. What do I roll?
You're just rolling a D20. We're just going to do this straight up. So I'm just going to get my dice roll out here.
Oh, I got an 18 on the die. If we're framing high, I think I'm in my horse.
So what? We'll say that you're trying to unhorse me this time because I still get the chance to unhorse you. We could go to melee at the game of our choosing, whatever that system is. Let's see here. All right. Yeah. So I would be unhorsed. I got an 11. So now we do the opposite. I'm going to, in this case, it would be my strength versus your constitution. And yours previous would have been your strength versus my constitution. And defender wins ties.
Defender wins ties. Okay.
Yep. Oh my God.
Oh, 4.
I think you're good. I rolled a 1. So you win. You win, Jack. You win.
We do.
Even
I am
though
the king of the joust.
Ah, man, so funny. But that's how it is, man. It's so quick. It's so quick. Like you get your dice and you just start, playing, and it's a lot of fun.
And it does lean towards I can, even though I don't know the names of the maneuvers and exactly what's going on, you can strategize based upon what are safe maneuvers, risky maneuvers, and what the likely outcomes are.
Oh, and that was the other thing is that when you did fumble lance, it was it treats it as if you had a broken lance.
Oh,
so your previous one, but it wasn't necessarily like risky for you. So when you did choose what you chose, so you were fine.
So what are the actual mechanical effects of a risky maneuver?
So the effect is if a U shows up, it's an auto unhorsing. There is no roll. Now you'll notice that on this chart there is a U with an underscore. That is a crit. So just like the F is a fumble or a 1, then that is your critical hit. So if that comes up, then boom, that person's auto off the horse, no roll regardless. But any other time, just like we just did, you roll on the U for the chart, or you roll opposed rolls is what I mean after you look on the chart. But then you have the injury, which is the I. So you would just follow across. You'd have, like in this example here, you would have a broken lance, possible unhorsing check, and then you have an injury, and then automatically you would roll the injury because even if you unhorsed them or you didn't unhorse them, the injury is going to happen. So, and that can play in because if you didn't unhorse him, well, that injury is going to linger, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, we had the last jouts. Somebody got a head trauma, just got blasted with like the max, and it was so fun. It was so funny. I was like, well, he's also got unhorsed, but man, it's like he's trying to figure out where he's at now.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And like things come out of it. Like we rolled the last game that we played for VentureCon. 2 ladies' favors showed up. One character got a tress, which is a lock of hair. And then once I did that, I just realized like I had it like on paper. I've not like actually like, digitized, the charts and stuff. I was like, I was like, so tress came up and I have like other ones where like, oh, if you get the jewelry, then you go to this chart, so forth and so on. But in this case, I was like, I didn't have what color hair it was. So it just dawned on me. I was like, oh, I need a chart for hair color. So
right.
Yes.
Cyrus, are there lesser and better lances?
Yes, there in the equipment there will be like a master crafted lance because you want the lance to break. I had a question in a previous interview where somebody said, "Well, can I use my magic lance?" It's like that's like frowned upon. They don't want you to do it. If you're caught using magic or whatever, that's going to be in the whole tournament section of like they're going to be like, no. You're or you keep trying, you're out. Like you're going to be, you're going to be banned. But there will be like a master crafted like version for the lances and stuff. And your horses will play into that too, because
Nice.
especially when you're making impact, a bigger horse, like a destrier, instead of, it'd be like your heavy war horse, it's going to have more impact on the lands.
Right.
And it's the same thing with like a saddle. There will actually be an option for the saddle, as well as where Dragon Slayer doesn't have field plate nor full plate. And full plate was primarily like your jousting armor. So that, that will play into it, where it's not going to be something like somebody's going to be walking around in a dungeon in it. Whereas like field plate, yes, it's like a military plate. You would be able to use that and walk around. But this case, you would be able to say, hey, this is my jousting set. I'm wearing this now.
Right. Okay.
And then there's the whole thing. It's like when, like where you unhorsed me, then I would owe you my horse. Or in this case, maybe even the debt of that horse. No, because that's what the tilt is for. The tilt is to avoid, you actually hitting the horse. And that's also, that was grounds for removal immediately. Because where the horse was such an important part, of the knights. Now in war, yeah, that's a legal target right there. Just, and that's what made some of the war horses and stuff skittish, especially if they took that once, even if they survived it, they may never want to even, go again. Trample the lines. I watched a whole video where a guy who actually does the reenactments and stuff was actually going over the whole historical part of that. And it was amazing, just talking about, he said, now, if you got a horse that would do that, that's a very brave horse. He said it was almost like a one-shot weapon of war. They said that once that horse if it got hit once or took, a lance or anything,
right,
you would not want to ever do that ever again. But it's like you break him at first. He talks about riding through the line, and in the hopes that they don't take anything. So
wow, and yeah, that really does make one consider their use on a battlefield, because again, as much as this is focused on jousting, its use on a battlefield is a completely different thing altogether. You're not generally going two heavy cavalry lines against one another.
But yeah, Cyrus, that's the reason why the whole tilt they used to would just do it is to make sure that you wouldn't hurt the horse. That was the intent of it. But here, I'll
half the reason the whole army can't be cavalry.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. That is very true. But I'll drop this so that
now. Before you do, though, let me. I wanted to highlight something. So, Table O was the original table. What's the rationale for the other tables? Why do you need other tables?
Okay, so it was so funny because when I designed my table, it was Table A. I didn't even have O wasn't on my radar, nor was the other ones. And I was sitting down to play, and just like as I'll show in the document here, say I have Table A here. Mm-hmm. I had let me see here if I can scoot back out. I used to have it to where in the layout, well, it moved for me anyway, so it worked out. So in the layout, I used to have it say Appendix C, jousting tables, right?
Yeah.
And it was right above this, so it dropped everything down.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a smaller table. So I intended like, well, I want people to be able, some people's eyes are not that good. So I did an additional one right after it. It's the same table. I just made it, it was bigger because it didn't use all the spaces. So in the layout, and my buddy Aaron goes, well, which table we use tonight, man? And I go, what do you mean which table? I was like, we just got the one. He said, oh, I thought you like had different tables for variety. I was like, that's a great idea. And so thus the tables came out of that. And, and then now we have, Table O. So I was like, I got to do the nod, change it up just to, what I've actually integrated into this. They got Table A, Table B, Table C, and this is the new one, which is the danger table, Table D.
Okay.
So there'll be an E. That will be the next one for the backers and everything. But in the free preview, it's just Table O, because you can get a jousting matrix table but this is just my version. It's like I'm not giving away anything other than just the little basic idea of the rules,
So to what level do you mix it up? Why would you use do you use table A tonight and that's all we're using tonight? Or do you do it for every?
You could. That's something that I thought about, like putting in the optional rules that you could change up the tables. But right now it's just I use one table because when we roll it randomly, which is like what I have at the beginning here, you would roll randomly to determine which table that we use tonight. That way, because that's one of the things that I didn't particularly care for, where the original ones, like everybody knew the table and they knew as soon as you break a lance, you're probably going to have to be in position. I think in the original rules, it was like position 4. So everybody's lined up ready to crack you on position 4 immediately. So it's like as soon as you break a lance in it's kind of like, okay, now you're going to get probably unhorsed. So that was kind of like the strategy for it. So it's like, well, I kind of wanted more variety, and I wanted people not to be like, oh, I know what this table, I know what my table is. I know what I'm going into every single time. This way, you don't know what table it's going to be, and then you probably have your own strategies for it. Heck, my buddy Aaron, again, he has a knight that he calls Chit Malik, and his whole background for this guy is that he doesn't want to joust. His father makes him joust. He wants him to be a man, kind of thing. Like he's built this whole character about him, saying that this is how he is. So all he does is that he goes back to the table, whatever one it is. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So he gets a D6. You got 8 choices for the aiming, and he just rolls it. And he goes, "That's what I'm going with. I don't even think about it." Yeah. And sometimes we've seen him win.
Yeah.
Miraculously. But that, for the most part, he always says, like, after he gets unhorsed, he's like, "Well, I hope Father would be proud." But I mean, there's different ways to play it. And that's one of the things that I'm going to incorporate with the solo play is that, and the 2 adventures that will be with the Full Metal Tilt. One is Pass de Arms, which is to simulate like being at a gate, being at a crossroads, being at a grove, and you're jousting, this area like any comer,
Right. Yeah.
And there could even be the chance where I'm going to make it to where it's not necessarily, another night. It could be, oh, now I've got to fend off these goblins or whatever that showed up on the road, but anyway, the point of what I was going to say is that with it and the other one, it's called the tournament, is that you would use that to randomly determine whatever table comes up, the choices for your opponent. So
nice. That's funny. Yeah, I've been thinking about goblin jousting. I imagine it's like pigs and just long sticks with a boxing glove on the end of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's exactly what it is. That would be really funny. Like jousting on what or even wolves. There you go. Like,
oh my goodness, yeah. And I bet you half the challenge is getting the wolf to run in a straight line. Weaving back and forth constantly.
Yep. But yeah, that's the reason for all the tables. So they'll get 6 tables. They may get more, but for the most part, they were promised 6.
So what goes into designing a table? Did you did you just come up with different effects for each combination? Like, are the same columns and rows used on each one, or are there different guard positions? It sounds like.
So when I created table A, I thought about it when you're jousting, how the lance and the shield be positioned and what the choice is, and what the defensive maneuver that's being chose, whether, will it be a miss? Will it be a slide? Anything could really happen. But then I thought about it logically and did A. Then B and C, that thought also came into, but also the chaotic of what if something went wrong here? So kind of changed some things, but also kind of did not want, I mean, I'm not going to put an H on base, which is a helm hit. So like
Yep.
hitting the bottom of the shield, the lance is not going to go up all of a sudden. But
Okay.
relatively things are going to be in a uniform, way where they should be. Whether you lowered your helm or whatever, that may, account to things. But I also wanted to make sure that the columns weren't the same. Some things may be the same. A miss or a glance, I can kind of like play with it. The breaking of the lance and an unhorsing, I can change those a little bit. Same thing with slapping on an injury.
Mhm.
So that's how I kind of like, once I had thought about that and built from that, when I'm doing E, which I'll be doing this week, I'm going to probably print off D, and I've already got the print offs of the other ones, and then I'm going to start building off of that, figuring out, okay, what did I do here? What did I do here? What did I do here? So that it is totally a different beast. Some things may be the same, but not, to keep the variety.
Now, for someone who doesn't have the historical background, can you describe a joust? Like, what are the rules? What's the procedure of an actual joust if someone wanted to run a real tournament in their game?
Well, of course, it would be like a 3-day event. Usually it's like in the fantasy one, I run it as the day of, like you would do the helm show, but usually you would do like the parade, the helm show, I believe it's called the showing of windows, which would be like the banners and everything. So it's like there's the parade. So they would have the procession the first day. And in that event, that's just like you were saying, that would be like when the ladies' favors would be given. And during that time, the next day would be the actual joust, because you would also have other festival things going on at that time too as well. And I think there's other like products out there where people have done like, like archery, knife throwing, those type of things, other things that would be going on,
Mhm.
as well as, the actual main event of the jousting and the melee at the end, which would have been historically what they would have done. Which side did you choose, home or home or away? And especially are you with the local lord, or is it with the away team in a sense? But then after that, depending on how it was structured, sometimes you would have like a tree of shields, which not necessarily be like an actual tree. It can be, but it would be like where you would have the shields of the knights that you chose that you wanted to joust, and then you would hit the lance or hit the heraldry of the knight that you wanted to joust, and so forth and so on. But of course, even going back before that, you still have to present your patents depending on what they would allow you to a field, whether you could be like a hedge knight or somebody who just happened to be vouched for by a local lord or by an order or a clergy. I mean, you could really get deep into the weeds about like how you're even allowed to participate, all the way up to the actual jousting itself. And then of course, once you're in the lists, you kind of not supposed to leave the list area, and you would joust.
You got to be handy and ready to go.
Right, exactly. And then of course, whoever the winner of that would be known as the tournament champion. And then the next day would be like the melee, like I was saying, like home and away. You would actually do, with blunted weapons and whatnot. Of course, there was other, depending on what region of like Europe you're in. I know like Germany had one where you would take maces and you would fight to knock the crest, not necessarily, hurt, the armor or whatever, but knock the crest off of the knight, in kind of like a battle royale. It could be like a bunch of knights, or it could even be one at a time, doing that. Like I said, there was other events that went on, during the whole thing, but it was pretty much a festival, so that everybody had, it's kind of like it seems kind of like the sports that we have now. It's like, oh, I got my favorite,
Right.
or also, like the lords and the the other or say like a free company or whatever, be looking to see, I'd like to see how this person does, out in the field, here at least, even, especially because like I even showed this to Pundit, and like Pundit told me, he said, well, we're competitors because I have one that was through his was it Pundit Presents, his his thing that he was doing with the Red Room until, all that happened with like Portugal, to where they have to re-strategize what they're doing now.
Right.
All good people, buy the Red Room stuff. but he focused, he did like the whole thing, but primarily like he had like the the whole period of like how the jousting and everything was done. And like he said, you really focused in on the later period, which is what I liked, is what I was, used to, or what knew about, which was,
it's what you think of when you think of jousting.
Right. Exactly. But even you go back far enough, they weren't using blunted, and they were chainmail. It wasn't. It wasn't as safe, but it's still not safe. But yeah.
I mean, it's never safe per se.
Right.
I mean,
accidents
just like a football game.
Accidents can happen.
It's rare that someone dies during a football game, but I wouldn't call it safe.
Right.
Now, how would one adapt this to, say, pterodactyls? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, I thought about that, because I thought about like dragons and whatnot, right?
And the Joust video game, you gotta have.
You could do the same thing, except that unhorsing is going to really hurt.
Seem to have a ring of finality to it. Yeah.
So at that point in time, then I would say you could, everything else would function fine, except when you get to that point, and then I'd be like, what is your game of choice, and what is the falling damage?
Yeah.
Or is there like a, or is your game to where there's wizards that's going to be like, I got you, I'll make sure you don't fall.
I was thinking the old school carnival net,
you could do that. Well, I also thought about this just in a split second, is that, you've got like, you had to take something like Barras and Borderlands, and you could be like, oh, I got a parachute. But like you said, Carnival Net, that would work too. Yeah. But you probably also, if you're going to take it that far, probably also think, well, there's got to be a chance that you just don't hit that net.
There absolutely has to be. I mean, and you got to think too, like, two flying creatures going at each other. You need that line or whatever, like how you have the lists.
Yeah. Well, and not necessarily. I mean, it could be like Joust. It could.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also thought about this too. You could also have something akin to a bungee cord.
I was thinking that too. I mean, but then my initial thought would be, that's not realistic, because he'd fall over and pull the thing over. It's just the aerodynamics wouldn't work.
Oh yeah, it would be bad.
Realism first and foremost. I need realism when I'm talking about jousting on pterodactyls.
Yeah. I do not recommend it. or large flapping ostrches. Hey, Dundermoose.
Glad to have you here, man. And man, we really pulled it off last night. We really pulled it off. Me and Dunder. We brought the mission home as a success with 1 hit point each. Almost didn't make it.
Wow. I haven't watched that yet, but it looked like you guys had a good time. Like I said, I saw it.
You know what? I don't think we streamed it. None of us streamed it. We just said, okay, let's just play. He caught a couple screenshots of us and stuff like that. I know it's so unusual for us to play a game and not stream it, but
well, that's, I mean, I just assumed like, oh, it's on somebody's channel or something. When I saw it on X, I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I'll have to catch that, so.
Yep. No, that one was the public does not get to know about the good things we do.
They just get to hear the stories.
Yeah, we get to be mysterious and drop hints and stuff like that. But yeah, we really brought it, and Lord Mateus and Gary definitely brought their A game last night. That was some really good stuff happening.
It's awesome.
Goblins joust on wild hogs.
Yeah, you could do that too. That'd be great.
And that's probably what it is. And that's probably whether they intend to or not. Like their game, like we used to go cow tipping or, cow jump in, hop on the back and let them ride around, that kind of stuff. Now I figured the goblins do that too, and then they end up jousting with one another by accident, if nothing else. Oh, extra juicy indeed. Yeah. We should have streamed it. But yeah, we were like all of us going, listen, we don't want to be, gussied up for the camera. Our adoring public can wait an extra day, I think. But now this is really great, Travis. It's not just it's a game in and of itself. It's a resource that can be tacked on to any game. And like you said, with just a little bit of thought, everything more or less applies to whatever circumstances you want to apply to it,
Right.
So we can do sea jousting, we can do sky jousting. And
well, it's like I told Victor, it was like we were talking about it, and he had he loves his his guns and everything, and then we were talking about it, and I said it's kind of like like 40K. I said I forgot what the guard is or whatever that uses the lances, like the electro lances or whatnot. And he was like, yes, he's like there is this sect that he has in his his modern I can't remember what it is, but he has these factions, that's like in like his post-apocalypse kind of like Europe. And then he was like, he named one off, and I was like, oh, I remember that faction. He goes, oh, I could see them jousting, like still holding that tradition. I was like, well, there you go. And he's like, cool, I'm backing it.
Krieg something.
Yeah, the Krieg. Yep. You're right, Thunder Moose. That's who I'm thinking of. Yep.
The Krieg. That's excellent. Yeah, well, jousting is definitely underrepresented in the sci-fi milieu. Talk about speeder bikes in Return of the Jedi. That was like a perfect jousting opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some products like way back in the day in the 90s that had stuff like that. There was actually one that was, I think it was under the Amazing Engine, to where it was set in a space Arthurian kind of like world. It was interesting to say the least. And I think they had
Age of Camelot.
Yeah, it's kind of like what it was, with like a hover horse or whatever. So
no, since we've segued back to the sci-fi stuff, I have to pick your brain about Star Frontiers, because that is a rarefied choice among sci-fi fans, and also my first and still favorite sci-fi game in and of itself. How did you come to that? Is that one?
Well, I mean, I just my mom and dad like bought one of the modules. It wasn't even something I was like looking at, and then I got it's the one. It's in the Volturnus arc, and it's like the first one that's an actual module. It's not what comes with your Alpha Dawn, set. And I finally accumulated the others, and that was like after I read it, I was like, oh, this is like so awesome. I like the the whole it kind of reminded me, because see, like I'm a big fan of like Star Control, so like Star Control 2 and everything that they had like that octopus race and everything, and I was like, oh, this is like the Urquan. I was like, this is great. But yeah, I ran that for some friends of mine, and we played through the Volturnus whole series. But later on, I collected like the stuff about where you had the I forgot what the worms are called. That
the Sathar.
Yeah, the Sathar, that they were like out there and they were like planning this invasion and stuff. I was like, oh man, I'd love to run that. That'd been such a great adventure arc too as well. But that whole, I mean, like, I don't think it got like enough love. I mean, yeah, the system, it is it's a D100, but I think everything I really played for the most part, for a lot of science fiction, especially early on, was a D100 based, or percentile based, game. Even the 40K stuff. We even played, that, as Marines, and I think I played once. I was was it a librarian, or the like the casters, and do that. Yeah,
the psychics.
The psychics. Yep.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I love that. Star Frontiers was my second RPG ever. It's like, we had only ever owned D&D, and then I picked that up one day. So that was my first foray into another game system altogether.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was way back in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I never got into the Volturnus adventures. I had that first one. Right. And that's one of those things that passed me by at the time, but I've heard people gush over them since, like the whole, I think they did 4 of them, published adventures or something like that in that arc. And that was really cool.
Yeah, it's and it's one of those things where it's like, it is old school D&D. It's like you have your characters out, so now you've like put them out on the frontier in a sense. You crash them on this planet. You go through all this stuff, and in the end, there's a battle. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now we break out, your military system and everything, or whatever your mass combat that you want.
Right.
Like it's just the progression. So
Did you do the space combat at all? The Nighthawk set?
I owned it, but I never played it. I never got to play it. But yeah, I read it and everything, and I thought, oh man, this is so neat, because then you could have, like, I think it was like, what was it? Like, you had like was it a Corvette that was the ship size that they had you on, as a Nighthawk, or I can't remember if that, or if it was like a fighter.
Yeah, their kind of standard one was what they called the Assault Scout.
Yes, the Assault
that
Scout.
was their that was their special little ship, which was sort of supposed to be the first ship you start at, where everybody's a PC and stuff like that. And kind of similar. I never played Star Frontiers in a campaign sense where people were playing serious pilots. I did a little bit of the war gaming of the ships and stuff like that.
Right.
And that was a really fun and neat system, because you have to track the velocity and turning and, your acceleration and deceleration factor and stuff like that. It was really neat to see how that stuff works, and a lot of vector math right there on the table happen in front of you.
Right, exactly.
But very, very fun, very crunchy kind of surprisingly light, but still crunchy. It has all the good stuff. Now, I don't know if you were playing Star Frontiers back in the day, but Dragon Magazine used to have the occasional the Sathar. Jeremy knows the Sathar.
Well, I was about ready to say True Mad Tinker. Yeah, that's what that system through the Imagine Engine was called. It was, kind of like a nod to T.H. White and everything. Once and Future King is what it was called. Yep.
Once and Future King. Okay. That's the one. Yeah, and one of the most fun things that ever came out in a Dragon article were military vehicles for Star Frontiers. So it gave you rules for taking all the normal vehicles, from the rules of the ground cars and the explorers and hover cars, what have you, and loading them up with machine gun and missile turrets and stuff like that. And so our Star Frontiers games forever after resembled 80s action movies, like Mega Force. We're shooting missiles and laser cannons and stuff. They're great fun, and those were a ton of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast. That's right up my alley.
Now, where do you spend most of your time gaming nowadays? Where does most of your attention go?
We play for the most part, unless I have some other obligation, mostly every Friday on Discord, because I now have people from Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Arizona, and I believe I'm getting a new player that has been, just been like hovering out there for a while. Frank Avila said like, "Oh, I'm very interested in playing now." So I have, now Canadian. I already have a Canadian, but he's trying to be nationalized. So
Good. Yeah, yeah.
but he's still but Frank, he's still up there. He's still up there. God bless him. So
My heart goes out to our Canadian brothers.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we play on Discord, and I have like my own system that I have kind of built around many different things. I've kind of hodgepodge together, and I'm still working on. So we've been playing that for almost 3 or 4 years now. So I'd have to go and check because I've got all the receipts from when we played, and it started with the Baramaze. So that's where it is, and I've created my own world. Actually, you want to see a picture of my world?
Why, sure.
Ooh.
Let's go ahead and see that.
And it actually kind of like built out of my LARPing world that I had for when I used to run 3 chapters for Nero.
No kidding. You're the first Nero person. I could talk for a whole show about that. I'm a vampire LARPer from back in the day.
I played vampire once. I played vampire once up in Columbus.
They probably said that's enough. Oh,
yeah,
I know that crew.
That was it.
You better off.
I was like, some of these people are creeping me out, man.
Yeah.
But the other people, like I knew it wasn't like, I just knew they were playing their characters. But some people, I was like, I'm not too sure, and I'm an avid LARPer, and I'm like, this is this I don't know.
Some lines are being blurred.
Yeah, I kind of felt that, but sometimes even when I played Nero, I kind of felt sometimes some people's lines were being blurred too. All right, let's see here.
Yeah, Nero is one of those things I always wanted to try. I love the idea of
blast
for LARP.
It's a blast. I ran my chapter was go back here. Maps will be easier once it loads. I had Nero, Southern West Virginia, Nero, Kentucky I owned, and Nero Southern Ohio. And actually, it was kind of interesting because one of my players that I just picked up, he told me his dad ran Georgia. And I was like, it's like, oh my gosh. I said, I never made it down there to the world was called, or the land was called Tiringale. And it was all in a, where you could venture back and forth, as you play your characters. Mine was called Naringal. This is Naringal, which you now see here on the map.
Oh, nice.
This is the Stoneforge Highlands. So I kind of imported Dwaro Deep in here. So when we were talking about, where I use my my own world to play test some stuff that I want to use as a product. So Kingsgate. So that's the entrance into Dwaro Deep, Greg's Dwaro Deep, right. Greg Gillespie. And that below that is the Whispers of the Second Deep. And then over here is where I put the Barrow of the Unbroken King. And the way that people get into the Elven Forest is a hex that will be part of the backers in the adventure and everything the backers will get. I'm not going to call it Hex 01809, but that's what the hex is. So you'll have the road here, and then that goes into the forest here, which, they don't want you, the elves will not let you go off that road. So you get here. There's actually there'll be a standing stone here known as the Stone of Necessity, but it plays right into this whole 6 mile hex of the the mounds of the Fairy Kings. Nice. But yeah, so this is just one of my maps. And actually, if anybody had picked up an issue of Mad Scribe magazine, issue number 12, where I put a little Full Metal Tilt jousting adventure in it, there's Beaumont. And I gave you like a little section of the Iron Shade wood that you could kind of play around in. But we do a lot of hex crawling, as you can see here with the that doesn't include the hex crawling underneath underneath of the world.
Right. Right.
The other map, which is just north of this one, which I'm still working on. It keeps popping up on my other screen here. I gotta bring it over. So here we go. Here's the you got the northern end of the Dwarven Kingdom up here. That I've got all this drawn out. I can actually show you what the hand drawn out it looks like. But here you go. Here you got the barrows. So your barrow maze. I call Helix Peatmire. And then I actually have way over here his other dungeon, the Caves of Archaea.
Okay.
Is up here. And there's actually a section below these two maps. So below the first one I showed you, which is not being created right now. It has the Highfell area. But just kind of give you an idea where I have hand drawn the stuff out.
Oh yeah.
And then I ported it in.
I love the old school style like that.
The Bergfried there, that is my location of the keep on the Borderlands. That's where, even before I did the Barrow Maze, I was running that for a couple of friends, here and there, just as a pickup game, the keep on the Borderlands, as well as for my daughter too, as well.
Right.
The Borderlands. This is my LARP character way back in the day. He created this tavern there.
Oh yeah.
It's got a great name. It's got a great name.
The Crooked Rooster.
Yeah, the Crooked Rooster. Oops. Yeah, there we go. I was going to show off the other one here. But yeah, so that's what I primarily play. I just kind of it's like I told my friends. I said, of course, when I said this, I was younger than I am now. And I said, I was like, I'm just kind of to the point where I just want to play in one world and I want it just to be mine. And that's it. I'm just kind of done running. I may run like a one shot or something, just for fun or whatnot. But I mainly wanted to focus on just doing my own thing.
I can appreciate that. I mean, I have a lot of varied interests, so I'm kind of all over the place. But when it comes to D&D and fantasy, that stuff, I've given up all other campaign worlds and settings and used my own. I feel very much the same way. I do like to play other games, but when I'm running, I want to run in my world because I know it better than any other setting. Right.
Just recently, Friday night, my characters were over here in 1014, and they just laid siege to a hold known as an old dwarven hold that was held by hobgoblins, and I refer to it as Two Hammer Hold. So they have now conquered that, and they're now figuring out what they're going to do with that. But that also was something where I told him, I said, well, this happened. I do like an online convention. I call it Travis Con on my birthday, where I run for 16 hours. And
happy birthday.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. That was back in December.
But still, that's a great
thing. I appreciate it. But anyway, they had just got there to where they got their army together and going to lay siege. And I said, look, I said, we're technically going to time stop this, but if all these people don't show up, I said, they're still locked. You can't play these guys until you all start showing up. So they're like, okay, we're going to be there. We're going. So they kept saying, I said, and then we're going to bring everything, immediately forward, because I run 1-to-1 time. And I said, but they're locked. They're locked there until we figure out what happens there. I said, and if we need to play somewhere else, I said, that's what's going to happen, because I don't want to touch anything down here until I know what happens down this. And they finally resolved it. So I was like, now Tom can, move on. And then when we did the joust, it's like I told one of my players, I said, well, it's good because you have a horse and you can make it there in 3 days. And so you can make it back in case if you wanted to not stay up here in Nebelmont, which was, on the other map. But yeah, in this 6 mile hex here,
so you do in fact use 1-to-1 time in your campaign?
Yes.
How does that work for you? What caused that? Have you always done it that way, or is that a newer thing?
No, I had instituted that about 2 years ago. And I told my players, I said, look, we're going to do 1-to-1 time. I had one player, it was one of my older players that him and his brother were still trying to wrap their head around it. And once they had figured it out, once it kind of like clicked, it was like, okay. And like, as I told them, I was like, we kind of run a West Marches style. It has to end in a town or a safe area. Because like even when they were exploring the King's Gate, they had to hire men at arms and everything, and they cleared out a spot. They kind of made that their little nest in there, and they held it. And I even had stuff run against them, even in the middle of the night and stuff. But they held it, and I was like, okay, now things are going to kind of like know that you exist there, just like they existed, So, and yeah, they did that, and I even had like where I actually have also running in this part of the map. Against the Giants.
Oh,
I had some that stayed in the cave, and they said, "Look, I'm going to be out for this, but my character's going to stay here. They just want to like kind of get the layout of the Hill Giants area and what we're going to do, and then when everybody comes back, then I will meet them and take them there, or they can all meet me here. Whatever how it played out. So, but it makes it easier. It makes it so much easier. And the way I explained it to them, I said, we all have jobs. We all have kids. I mean, it's just the whole thing we were talking about, like everybody missing dates. And that's how the Baramaze stuff started.
That's the number one issue it fixes for me is like, look, I can just schedule it every Thursday, and then whoever shows up, shows up.
Right.
There's none of this. Crap, we were in the middle of that dungeon, and now 2 of the players can't be here. Can we even complete it without them?
Right. And we see we have all kinds of threads that's out here, and they know it. And they've like at Travis Con, they use it like every year to be like, what do we have on the docket that we need to clear and like do? And then they start this whole, we're cleaning this stuff out because we have 16 hours to like just, play and do that. And a lot of times that moved into them delving into I'll tell you about it here in a second.
No we'll get to that.
I'll even pull up the rule book for you. So
I have a rule book on my shelf. I've never played, but somehow a rule book ended up in my collection. So
nice. But like they'll go down into Dwaro Deep, and they've like only scratched the surface of it, just kind of like with Baramaze. Like they know where there's entrances. They have like done stuff. I mean, they conquered the King's Gate. That used to be a whole area where you have to go into, but they did with military force and everything. They conquered it. It's now like part of the little canton. That's what I call it, instead of a county, a canton.
Okay.
But anyway, it's I see that as the best way to like to do it, especially with schedules and everything. And it kind of makes it neat because I never know what they're going to do. I never know who's going to show up at the table. I mean, I'll have like somebody say, I'm playing this week. And so I kind of relatively have the ideas of people. And sometimes those people don't show up because something happened. But, then they'll be like, oh, we only have so many people here. We're going to play these characters we have in our stable since we don't want to use our main characters that may be off doing something, or we don't want to use them. We want them available when this happens. We want to go off and explore hexes or find some little dungeon to go into, whatever. So, but since he brought up Nero, I'll leave this map up just in case. We'll drop this though.
Oh yeah. Oh, remove that for now, and we can go back to displaying the chat.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to bring up the rule book here.
Oh, yeah. Let me go ahead.
I just have to remember where it's at, though.
We'll go back to that.
Yeah. LARP. There it is.
Boom.
Gosh, where? Do you have like the 8th edition rules? Is that the one that you have?
I don't even know. The thing is old. I think I've had it for nigh on 20 years. I am fervently looking for it.
Yeah, see, that's the 9th edition. That's the newest one that they have. I'm trying to see if I have an 8th edition. I know I have a regular, but there's a 6th edition.
Oh, aha! 8th edition.
It's black, is it? Yep. Yeah, that's it. That's the 8th edition. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, so they have the 9th edition, which I'll just pull up here.
Yeah, it does say 8th edition on the spine, so I can say that for certain.
Yep. I figured that's the frequent one. It actually had a physical book. Now it's just like PDFs and stuff. And I don't even know, what they do and everything here. But yeah,
it's been a while since you were involved.
Oh yeah, since 2015, I stepped away. Told the owner, which I kind of, just kind of. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like politics. We'll just kind of leave it at that. That's like,
I am familiar. The vampire LARPing had its own travails of that nature.
But the neat thing about it is that you had pretty much 4 classes. It covers your basic classes. You have a fighter, a scholar, a rogue, and a Templar. And the way that it works is, see, it has these blocks here. Yeah, don't forget about that. So,
see all this? Ignore it. Ignore all that.
You can choose your races and whatnot. But the way that it works is, it didn't matter what class you were. Only thing that would matter about that is that you would get so many hit points based off your class. And then you would also have
skills cost.
You'd have your skills, and certain skills would cost less for what class you're in, so forth and so on, or more if you were, a class that it's not adjacent to.
Right. Where like the warriors can learn magic, it's just very expensive for them.
Yeah, I played a what was referred to as a broken scholar. Okay. And a broken scholar is a magic user. And I primarily did earth magic, which is healing, but you can also reverse it to necromancy. And I was a necromancer because I'll be honest,
as you do.
Out of the magic, you could use celestial magic, which is like your flame bolts and your ice bolts and your dragon's breath and all this. But the whole thing about that is armor still counted against that, not against necromancy. Necromancy, as soon as you cast it, goes straight to body. So you had like no defense other than you got hit points. And and I used to joke too, because when you go back and you look in this game system, the way it's created, that all the magic that was curses, which is like your fey magic or whatever, they're the most powerful man-stopping spells that you could find, like paralysis, sleep. It's like these are all the stuff that just stop you instantly. But yeah, I got up to level 70, which used to be unheard of. Some people are like way past that now. And I've got friends that still play. I still like I'm on the boards. I know stuff and see things. And I used to travel a lot all the way up and down the East Coast and play, and used to trade. I used to be really big as what's called a formal caster, somebody that does rituals. Okay. And so my scroll library was very well sought up, because what I would do is you have a time limit. So you'd have like your scrolls would last for a year or whatever. You said have a timestamp, or 2 years. So what you would do is you would go to a convention. You would go to a game, and it'd be like a 2-day weekend or whatever. You have so much of your resources to use. And what I would do is that I would go in and I would like pay people or whatever and just keep the library like going. And then what I would do in turn is that, say, people up in Boston, I made friends with some people in Boston and some other places that was like, hey, look, we don't have the resources for this, and we would like to just pay you, but we have all this coin. So they would ship physical coin to me, and I would send them slips of paper in the mail. So I had I'd come into an event and I'd be like, hey, I need to dump these coins into your bank. So
Okay.
and they'd be like, all right, so your bank goes up and everything. And, and I just found it was funny. Like I'd had this whole system where I would say it would cost X number to do this or whatever. And I'd go in and do all these scrolls for people, send them out and keep my own library, like going as a caster. But the reason why I was called a broken scholar is because I actually had combat skills too. So I paid the ridiculous amount of build to be able to have a sword, and then you can, and since I was able to at one point in time, or towards the end there, I was both schools or dual school. I had celestial and earth magic, and then what you would do is that I could make myself a +3 sword, and your base damage on a sword was 2, and then when you made it magic, then it became based off of how much damage, and you could only go up to 3. So I could at least do 5 points of damage, was like enough to stop like goblins and like ogres and a bunch of other stuff. So, and then I had my shield, and as long as I could block, I won't be hit. And then I had all my magic, so it's kind of like the Jedi thing. It's like I have all my magic to heal myself. I can put up all the celestial wards, and that's how I'd go into battle. Or I would curse somebody to where I'd do double damage, and then I would come in, and now I'm doing 10s.
Now, I want you to pull back here for those who are not familiar and describe what Nero is like, what it actually is, and then what an actual game is.
Yeah. So Nero is a LARP. It stands for New England Role-Playing Organization. And you'd have a character sheet. You would create a character, and when you would start out at first level, which is like 15 build, you had 15 of these points, like I'm showing here, that you could spend. You would pick your primary class, whether it's a fighter, a rogue, a scholar, which would be like your magic user, or a Templar, which has both scholar and fighter abilities. It's a cleric, I mean, but you could use bladed weapons. It didn't matter. So you could use later on latex weapons, which made the games so much better once you're able to use like latex weapons. But you used to make boffers back in the day.
But people can still do of it was the foam swords. Even made a couple back in high school.
Yeah, and those are still used because certain things don't work well, but they do as a boffer. So anyway, you create your character. Human's easy. You don't have to do anything to dress up or anything. If you play a class, which I used to play, what was called a Dre, which is a dark elf, I had to do the full black face paint, learn how to do all the theatrical makeup and everything, silver eyebrows, silver like goat, all your hair, that you would have.
And there's no skill for speaking Elvish. You have to learn how to speak Elvish.
Well, you really didn't do that, but I mean you could, but like if you had like a skill or you were Elvish or whatever, and the plot team. So in other words, and this also goes back to my love of like what I'm doing with my campaign setting and stuff, where like I have people that can come and go or bring their characters and whatnot. Well, this came from like doing this, because you could take your character and I could go up to Pro, which is Pittsburgh Role-Playing Organization, or I could go to Polar, which is another Pittsburgh one, or I could go to War, which was like Wheeling area. I could go over to the other War, which was over in Ohio, or I can play in Kentucky before I bought it. I could just play my character no matter what, just as long as it was a weekend. So when you'd show up to camp, you'd pay your money. It'd be like $40, $60. I don't know what the prices are now, but back in the day, we charged $60 for a 3-day weekend. So Friday, you would get there. You'd be at like a Boy Scout camp. Everybody would be, you do like your elf ears. If you're an elf, like people be getting their costumes. They're going to play that character for the full weekend. So when you first get there, you'd have your bunks or whoever you're bunking with or whatnot. And where you would have like your out of game stuff. Like nobody's going to mess with that. That's part of the rules. If something like that happens, then yes, the cops get called. It becomes a serious situation. But anything else, you'd have like your stuff that you would have, like you were like dressing up your cabin and stuff, like you were like in like a Renaissance or medieval times, whatnot.
Sure.
So, and then they would start with announcing the rules, and they would go over the basic rules for new players, and all of the stuff that older players would know. They give you kind of like a little idea. Sometimes they give you pamphlets of like, this is what's where the area that you're at, the barony or the county, whatnot. And that whole weekend, then you would play. There would be adventures and stuff that would go on. If you were going to pick a lock, you got to learn how to pick a lock. If you don't know how to pick a lock, you can't pick a lock. Right. And you got to have the skill.
You got to buy the
to be able to do it.
Your character sheet, but you physically must pick the lock.
You have to physically pick the lock. Some places did it where all it was just a time, so whatever. Same thing with traps. Sometimes traps were elaborate. You had to learn how to cut them. You had to like do that type of thing. Combat, you have to go out there. You got to block. You got to fight. If you have armor, it's either got to be real armor, which you got bonus points if it was real that you were wearing. Then some people would play like they'd have like a aluminum chain or something.
Right. A costuming piece, you still get some armor points for.
Yeah, like a leather, whatnot. But yeah, and you'd have like big battles and stuff. And the way that spells are done is you have a spell packet, which is you would have like it's about an inch by inch piece of cloth that had birdseed in it. And then you would wrap a rubber band around it to where it's tight. So it's just like this little, like almost like a dart. And then you would keep those, like they called it like a cauliflower, where you would keep like all your spells like that. And then you would incant the spell before you tossed. And then you would incant and then toss, incant or toss. But if you're casting on yourself, you had to have one spell pack and you put it here. One of my tricks was I used to keep one underneath of on myself on a string underneath my shirt. So that way I could always just do this and touch it every single time and then incant the spell as if I was, healing yourself. That's the same thing like cure light wounds. You would go and you'd have to touch them, or you'd have to toss it in the hope that you hit them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. And great activity if you wanted like, either get back into shape or you are in shape and want to do it, The young kids that's out there that would be, like running you. Running all over you.
Oh yeah. I'd be definitely playing the old man in character. Hey, come back here. Let me whoop you with my cane.
Right. Well, we used to joke. One of my friends he just passed away this year, but we used to set on a log at this one place. It was the in-game world was called Hemwood. And we used to set on this log, and we were like the highest level characters there, and it's just all these like new players or people playing their low level characters.
Right.
And we're all sitting there and we're just like, man. And then it's so funny because like stuff would come into town. It'd be like spiders or like goblins or whatever. And they'd be like, come help us. We're like, nah, man, just you go do your thing. It's like we're just sitting here, we're laughing, watching them. We're like, we got you. And like I'd run over and be like, I'd heal them. If something came to attack me, I'd be like, drop it. And just like, you should know better, kind of thing, and tell it, or, send it back out and be like, okay, I'm at least take the coin from it, give it to the new player. Because again, coin did equal experience as well. You can only turn so much in, but you got experience for the event that you did. But yeah, you could be attacked in the middle of the night. Just make sure that you're safely peeing somewhere. A lot of people that smoked used to say, man, you watch around me just while I'm out here taking a smoke.
Because you can get jumped in the middle of taking a leak.
Yeah, but there would be times like, oh, my character is in bed and I need to go use the bathroom, and you don't want to like put all your gear on or anything. So you had like a little white bandana and you'd put it on, and that meant I'm out of game. And so you just put it on and you'd walk out and be like, oh, I got a nature call, got to do my thing. But your character sheet and stuff's in there. Now, if something came to kill you and your character sheet was in there, yeah, you're gone. So, you'd have to go to resurrect, or somebody'd have to heal you or whatever in the amount of time that you had. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Pardon me, a little frog in the fruit.
No, it's fun.
Yeah, I had many fun years doing the vampire LARP thing, but again, the out of character organizational elements got to be a bit dysfunctional and unenjoyable, so that predicated my leaving. How big is Nero as an organization? Is it spread? How many chapters do you think it has?
Well, it's been a long time since I've like I'd have to ask my buddies that still do it. I still think some of it's like splintered off. It's the whole
I am
thing.
aware of that. Like some years ago, I became aware of something called Alliance, which
Yes. Well, that
became its own thing.
we're even past that. We're even past that splintering off. I still think that they still have I mean, when it was at its heyday, let's do this. Let's see if it's in the back of this. If not, actually, that book. See if that book has actually my name in the back of it, in the back with a list of chapters. See how old that book is. I'd be down at the bottom. SWV.
Deepak Deenan. I do not see you, Mr.
That's an older book then. That's an older book than that you got there. Yeah, I was just trying to see if it had the list of chapters, but
this one says 2002 apparently.
Yeah, that's just before we bought, or I bought in 2006.
Okay. So tell me about that experience. The Vampire LARPs I played in, they were not set up as businesses. There was no money on the line and stuff like that. And that's where Nero fascinated me, is it takes a lot more. It takes a serious cash investment. You're renting a facility because, we basically, we played my LARP in our apartment. Yeah, which, if you're going to do Nero is much less feasible.
Yeah, and I think now they have like a fee to like be part of the, used to not be, to be part of like the database and everything. It was the local chapters had their own databases. And then they started this. It's kind of like the same thing now. It's like most organizations or businesses, they're like, oh, well, we have this membership now, right? So anyway, to
be honest, I see that as a positive development.
For this, yeah.
Every game having their own membership rank and database and all that stuff like that is just fraught with peril, because no two games are going to do it exactly alike.
If I agree with you, if maybe there was a better centralized organization, and then maybe that's changed. But when I was like leaving, I was kind of like, we'll see. I know that like the guy that I was partnered with that had joined in as a partner ended up like helping a lot with this. So hopefully that it went well from there on out. But anyway, running the business, you had two options. I mean, you could run it as a business or you could run it as a nonprofit. 90% of our nonprofit, we were a business.
Okay.
So we ran it as a business. So we ran for profit. We did fine. We were always in the black. And then, once I was out, I was like, I told the other guys, like, well, you could run it from there on out. And then something happened with him, and I'm not going to get into that. So, I still have like the rights and everything. I just haven't like pushed the button on it. I mean, I have people that beg me to like either come back and play or this. And I said, oh, well, my daughter got old enough. Well, my daughter's old enough now, but she's not interested in this. And I thought, well, at some point in time, I might consider like going back, and playing and digging everything back up, because once you're in the system, you got your records. I mean, I still have all of our records.
Oh, wow.
I kept the one here, and I kept the one for us in case there was discrepancies. So
nice. Okay.
But the way that it worked is like you paid for the camp, and then you charge the money, and if you had like a website, you'd have people just go in and PayPal, whatever. Sometimes you had to do refunds, just like any other business, in case somebody I couldn't show up, like, oh, it's understandable. And then you had people that donated stuff, so that was really like kind of like the lifeblood of being able to, I mean, you would buy your own, say if you needed some latex items, like some swords and whatnot, or makeup. But a lot of that stuff, like right after Halloween, it was like Nero Christmas. Like they would buy all the stuff up for cheap, and then they'd come in, and you would get what was called goblins, is what they used to call them. They're NPC points that you would get that would go towards your character, and so you could donate things that the chapter needed.
Oh, nice.
So,
Nice.
so which worked out. But then you also had storage. Well, I didn't have to worry about storage. I was single at the time, so I kept the storage on my own.
Sure.
But I knew like some places, like some bigger organizations, that they had a storage unit and they kept it closer to the site and then ran. And like I ran most of the stuff in West Virginia, so I knew it wasn't too far. I think the furthest site that I had to log stuff to was outside of Lexington.
Okay.
So, but but they also had their local stuff because you'd have plot teams. So your plot team would be like at least 3 or how many numbers of people, and then that's your referees, your dungeon masters for the thing. And then you'd have like marshals, which they could act as marshals, meaning like if there's need to be a rule, say if you're going to have PvP, well, you got to have a marshal on hand the whole time because there's going to be a discrepancy or a fight. I mean, it's just like any other sport or anything.
Yeah.
There's going to be blood, blood's going to be boiling and everything, at the time.
Yes, there is.
And so, it is what it is. But, I mean, for the most part, it is a great experience. So anybody that ever wanted to play it, I would say, Nero is a great organization. It's a lot of fun. I do have friends that still do it. Let me
Still
see.
participate.
Yeah, I'll try to find their. Actually, I might even have my pictures from my LARP stuff here, where I used to have the. Oh, here you go. Here's my character.
Oh,
I got my wife to go to a Renaissance fair as with me and everything.
She's pretty. I would have never thought she'd end up with you.
I know, man. I know. Just definitely hitting above my grade. So, it's my friends who were playing in Lexington there.
Nice.
And I'll show you. Let's see here real quick, and then I'll try to find those chapters. So example of my latex swords that I still have.
Actually, we are over time, so I'm going to have to wrap it up here. But send me the chapters when you get the info.
Yeah, I will. You got it.
Oh man, that's brilliant. Great stuff though, man. And I'm going to have you back on to just talk Nero for a couple hours.
Oh, that's fun. I could talk for hours about things that we did and all that. Yep.
That's brilliant. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to this week's edition of Jawin With Jack. Our guest has been Travis Fauber, and I hope you found the show as educational, as entertaining as I did. She is pretty nice looking. She is, yeah. So, all right.
I hope she's watching. Usually she does like to watch, so yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a good evening. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and, look out for goblins because they're always around.
It's true.